My stepmother poisoned my father against me for 12 years. She whispered lies. She fabricated betrayals. She turned every conversation, every holiday, every phone call into evidence that I was ungrateful and dangerous. By the time my father died, he hadn't spoken to me in 3 years. She wore diamonds to the will reading. Smug, triumphant, certain she had won. And then the lawyer read the first line. To my wife, Patricia, for the years of manipulation and deceit. I leave nothing. She went white. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. I looked at her from across the room, and I smiled. My name is Victoria. And this is the story of how my stepmother stole my father, and how I got everything back. My mother died when I was 11. Cancer, it was fast, brutal, 6 months from diagnosis to goodbye. My father was devastated. He cried every night for a year. I could hear him through the walls. I learned to make my own breakfast. I learned to tiptoe around grief. I learned that love, sometimes, looks like silence. And then, 2 years after my mother died, Patricia arrived. Patricia was a paralegal at my father's law firm. She was 15 years younger than him, divorced, ambitious. She didn't look at my father like a person. She looked at him like a portfolio. She saw his house, his savings, his successful practice. And she saw me, the obstacle, the reminder of the first wife, the thing standing between her and everything. It started small. Victoria was rude to me today, darling. I'm sure she didn't mean it. Then bigger. I think Victoria took money from my purse. I don't want to upset you, but... Then devastating. She said she wishes I had died instead of her mother. I'm afraid of her, Robert. I'm afraid of your daughter. None of it was true, not a single word, but my father believed her, every time, because Patricia was smart. She gave him a story he could believe, and I was 13, 14, 15, with no one to defend me. By the time I was 18, my father had stopped speaking to me. Patricia had convinced him I was a thief, a liar, mentally unstable. He changed his will. He blocked my number. He didn't come to my college graduation. The last words he said to me before he died were, "I don't have a daughter anymore." Patricia had one, or so she thought. I spent the next decade in exile. My father never called, never wrote. Patricia controlled everything. She filtered his emails, blocked my letters, told mutual family friends that I was troubled and dangerous. I missed his 60th birthday, his retirement party. I heard through a cousin that he had been sick, that Patricia had been managing his care. I tried to visit once. She called the police, said I was harassing them. That was the last time I tried. I became an accountant, maybe because numbers don't lie, maybe because I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't the person Patricia said I was. I was honest. Meticulous, thorough, and in my quiet, invisible way, I started digging. Patricia thought I had given up. She thought the exiled daughter was gone forever, but I had been watching, waiting. Researching, and what I found changed everything. My father's health declined rapidly in his final year. Patricia controlled all communication. She updated no one. She let no one visit. And in his final months, bedridden and medicated, he was completely in her hands. What Patricia didn't know was that my father's lawyer, a man named Mr. Ashworth, had been my mother's attorney first. He had known me since I was a child, and 2 months before my father died, he called me. "Victoria," he said quietly. "Your father has made some changes to his will. I think you should know about them. I also think you should be at the reading." Mr. Ashworth told me everything. My father in his final months had begun to suspect Patricia. Small things, missing documents, unexplained withdrawals. A conversation with an old colleague who mentioned something Patricia had denied. He had started his own investigation, quietly, without her knowledge, and what he found was devastating. She had been transferring money from his accounts for years, forging his signature, taking loans out against the house. She had a secret credit card with $40,000 in debt. She had been siphoning his retirement funds into an account in her name. My father, dying and betrayed, had done the last thing Patricia expected. He had changed his will, in secret, with Mr. Ashworth's help. He had written a new one, a detailed one one that listed every lie, every manipulation, every financial crime. And in it he left Patricia nothing. Not the house, not the accounts. Not a single dollar. Everything went to me, his daughter, the one he had been told was a thief, the one who had never stolen a thing. I read my father's new will 12 times. He had written a letter, addressed to me. Victoria, I was wrong. I let her poison me against you. I don't expect your forgiveness, but I want you to have everything. She deserves nothing. I see her now. I see you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I folded that letter, placed it in my pocket, and I waited. Patricia had no idea what was coming. The will reading was held at Mr. Ashworth's office. Patricia arrived like she was attending a coronation. She air-kissed the relatives. She patted my father's portrait on the easel. She shot me a look of pure, dismissive contempt. Victoria, how? Unexpected. I didn't think you'd be invited. I smiled. I wouldn't miss it, Patricia, not for anything. Mr. Ashworth began, the formalities, the witnesses. And then the first section. To my wife, Patricia, whom I married in what I now understand was a carefully orchestrated campaign of manipulation, I leave nothing. Patricia's smile froze. What? She whispered. Mr. Ashworth continued. I leave nothing because she has already taken enough. She has taken money from my accounts. She has taken the relationship I should have had with my daughter. She has taken 12 years of my life from me. I will not allow her to take anything else. The room was silent except for Patricia's ragged breathing. Mr. Ashworth read on. The house, all accounts, all assets, and all personal property are to be transferred in full to my daughter, Victoria Ann Whitmore. She is the sole heir. She is the executor. She is the one I wronged, and she is the one I trust. Patricia stood up. Her chair scraped the floor. This is a fraud. She manipulated him. She must have, Mr. Ashworth looked at her over his glasses. Mrs. Whitmore, the will was witnessed by 3 independent parties. Your husband recorded a video. Would you like me to play it? She sat back down. Speechless and broke. I watched Patricia walk out. No house, no accounts, no inheritance. The diamonds she wore were the last things she owned that were worth anything. And I knew because I had the records that even those were bought with my father's stolen money. She left speechless and broke, and I got my father back, not in life, but in truth, in justice. In the letter he wrote me, in the words he finally believed. She deserves nothing, I see her now. I moved into my father's house, our house. I took down Patricia's cold, modern art. I put up photos of my mother, of my father before he was poisoned, of us. I found my old bedroom, still the same, locked. Patricia had turned it into a storage room. I unlocked it. I sat on my childhood bed, and I cried, for the years lost, for the lies believed, for the father who finally saw the truth, just too late to hold me again. Patricia tried to contest the will. She hired lawyers. It went nowhere. The video, the witnesses, the documentation, my father had been thorough. She disappeared from the area eventually. I heard she moved to a small apartment in another state. The diamonds were sold to pay her legal fees. Everything she had schemed for, gone, and me, I kept the house. I kept the letters. I kept my father's apology. And every single day I walk through the front door and remember, the truth is patient. It waits, and when it finally speaks, it leaves you speechless. My stepmother poisoned my dad against me for 12 years. She thought she had won. She wore diamonds to the will reading. She left with nothing, not the house. Not the money, not even her dignity, and I left with something she could never steal. The truth, finally spoken, finally heard. Finally mine. If this story stayed with you, if you've ever been lied about by someone who wanted what was yours, then you already know why these stories matter. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if your stepmother stole your father and then lost everything at the will reading? I'll be reading every single one.